ROBBINS.
But just firstly, can you tell me a little bit about your work in Durham? I understand that you were a candidate in the most recent primary. Just kind of like a little about your background in Durham.
Sure. I have lived in Durham for about a decade. I have served many roles in the community, been on a few boards with the city. My primary, community contribution right now is I manage a community fridge in Bragtown, which is a historically black neighborhood, the first settled by newly freed enslaved Africans in Durham. And much of that area is a food desert, so there's not a grocery store with fresh, healthy food close by. And so an organization that I volunteer with was able to procure a refrigerator, and I was able to set up this fridge in a convenience store in the neighborhood, because that store doesn't sell any fresh food, so it's not any competition. And so I manage it, make sure that it has fresh fruits and vegetables that we obtain from a community garden. It's a mutual aid project, so we invite people in to contribute, help keep it clean. Folks have reached out that, hey, I have chickens, I have eggs. Is it all right if I put them in there? And so it's really been a blessing for people. And now with SNAP cuts and all these social safety nets being uncertain right now, people are in need of those type of services now more than ever. And so that's been one of the main things that I've focused on.
Gotcha. And what made you want to run for office? And tell me a little bit about just kind of your campaign and the issues that are important to you in Durham.
Sure. So I primarily ran first I wanted to educate myself about running for office, what that entails, what the process is, and be able to take that information back to the community, because I don't think a lot of people get an opportunity to see what that's like on the inside. I also wanted to highlight how inaccessible the process is. So it's not really meant for people who have to work a full-time job, because even though it's considered a part-time commitment, you really can't do it well, in my opinion, part-time. So that's why a lot of the folks wind up being business owners or independently wealthy and don't have to worry about work. So it's not really meant for poor and working class people to be involved in the process. And also to highlight that it's not accessible for people with disabilities to be a part of the process. And I ran a anti-capitalist campaign. I wanted to kind of elevate class consciousness in Durham. A lot of times we have conversations along racial lines, and to me, Durham was the perfect city to deepen that conversation about class, since much of our leadership is black. We have a black mayor, a black police chief, black sheriff, black DA. All of these people in positions of power and authority are black, and yet the material conditions of poor and working class people in Durham, particularly black and brown people, doesn't really change just because those folks are in office. And so I used my platform to highlight how most of our social issues can be attributed to capitalism, particularly housing, which is a hot button issue all over the country. And my argument is that as long as we operate under capitalism and housing is treated as a commodity and not a right, then it will never be affordable, because it will always incentivize corporations and extremely wealthy people to buy up swaths of properties, rent them for as much as they can, and continuously squeezing poor and working class people. So I didn't really have any expectations of winning. I didn't take any campaign donations. I financed my campaign myself and kept it at the $1,000 threshold. nor did I accept or court major PAC endorsements. So it was really fully grassroots, getting out and talking to people and spreading that message. And so even though I was ousted in the primaries, I did secure 11.25% of the vote, which is pretty good, to not have any infrastructure and to be, doing most of the things myself. I didn't have a team or staff. I had a few people volunteer to do a couple of things for me, but for the most part, it was just me doing all my questionnaires, attending all these forums, and I just really wanted to give a voice to poor and working class people in Durham.
I wanted to ask you about some of your social media posts that have gotten some attention. A few people have sent them to me, raising concerns that some of the language, in particular the wanted poster and the use of the word guillotine, that language could be dangerous. What is your response to that concern?
So I find it interesting that people fixated on that and did not read the actual context of what I was saying. So, for example, I've already litigated the wanted posters situation and the concept of social murder and how it involves policies that lead to premature deaths. And I believe the people that I featured on them are guilty of that. I wasn't calling for anybody to be harmed. On the contrary, I was pointing out how the things that they sponsor and support actually cause harm to other people. Now, as far as the guillotine, I know exactly the group of people who are offended by that, and they would consider themselves progressive left people. And I think what my campaign has done is expose the fact that these people are not left people. They're moderate at best. And the things they say they subscribe to, now all of a sudden they're weaponizing against me because they don't like what I'm saying against the people they support. So I know these folks, and I know they're intelligent enough to know that I wasn't calling for anybody to put a literal guillotine out and chop anybody's head off. That was never said. Actually, the quote was, the guillotines aren't being dragged out fast enough for me. And that was in context of me posting about one of the candidates who will be having a fundraiser tomorrow where tickets are ranging from $250 to $1,000. And this person has already raised the most money and spent the most money in this race. And I felt that it was, frankly, unconscionable at a time when our social safety nets are under attack and the government's been shut down for several weeks. And while these people are planning to raise more money tomorrow, people are hitting me up, messaging me in desperation, looking for food resources. Where can I tell my people to get food? Where can I tell my people to get support for their bills? Like, folks are legitimately scared and scrambling, and I just think it's immoral to be promoting a campaign fundraiser where you're charging $250 to $1,000 per ticket when this is all on the brink. And you're not mentioning any of that. You're not providing people with any resources. But me, a person that is unresourced comparatively, I'm the one trying to figure out how to help the community directly. And my goal in running for office was always to organize people beyond just an election, because I think we are heading into some really dark times, and folks are really going to be leaning into desperation, which will increase crimes of survival, where people are going to do what they have to do to feed themselves and their family. And so none of that conversation was addressed, just the part about the guillotine and just the part about social murder, which totally skips the context of the conversation. And it is a way to avoid, it's a way to trigger an emotional response from people without having to address the criticism and the critique that I'm raising. You know, like, a post is not violence. Policy decisions are violent. Gentrification is violence. Gentrification is likened to genocide in some academic fields. The displacement of people in Haiti through urban renewal and the 147 highway, that's violence. A post about a guillotine, when I know these people know about the French Revolution and what that was about, and aren't dumb or ignorant by any means, but this is a way to now distract, right, from the conversation about hoarding wealth and hoarding resources and spending money on campaigns and not on people, and prioritizing profits over people. So that conversation overshadows the criticism of what these people are doing policy-wise that is violent to poor people.
Would you do anything differently?
About the post?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely not. I would not do anything differently. I didn't call for anyone to be harmed. I'm pointing out that y'all are harming people. You know, y'all are harming people that look like me, they come from where I come from, that are poor and trying to survive every day. And rather than confront that hypocrisy and that contradiction, it's now gotten misconstrued that I am violent. I've never harmed anyone in my life, ever. I'm not calling for anyone to be physically harmed. And so now I'm having to defend myself instead of them having to defend themselves. And I think it's also very in a time when the current administration is targeting people for certain beliefs that are against the status quo, I think it's unfortunate that these people who claim to be on the left and claim to care about people are essentially putting a target on my back by associating me with violent rhetoric and labeling me as COINTELPRO, when the people that I revere historically were actually targeted by COINTELPRO and actually had their lives ruined and their movements dismantled by this. And at a time where we see surveillance technology on the rise being used to track and potentially criminalize people, I'm incredibly offended that these folks are weaponizing language to paint me as a violent person, because I know that they know better, and I know that this is a game to distract from what it is that they're doing. It's just like when people say eat the rich, is someone really meaning to take a bunch of people and throw them on a barbecue grill? I don't think that's a metaphor. And I know these people are smart enough to know what a metaphor is. And, I'm hip to their tactics. And it's just very unfortunate that what gets picked up and what doesn't get picked up, right? Because there's a viral post that someone made being critical of the mayor, and there are comments in there where former students of his say they were groomed by him when he was a teacher. No news sources jumped on that. I've tagged news people in it, like, hey, are y'all seeing this? Because multiple people were saying this. And I ask around town, trying to understand, is this happening? And people tell me, oh, yeah, that's old news. You know, folks been saying that he's done that. And I'm just like, so we're letting somebody who allegedly groomed students be the mayor of a city, and nobody is concerned about that? But people are concerned about my Facebook post? Like, that just doesn't add up to me. And, you know, I could have highlighted that more, but I didn't want it to get buried as a political attack, because I think that's something very serious that requires a community response and reaction to. And yet we're talking about a post when there's someone, multiple people have said preyed on them as a student, as his student. You know, I've obtained things from public records requests where employees of his restaurant tried to raise concerns about being harmed as employees, and nobody addressed those things. So it's just the selective outrage. You know, I can't get anybody to write a story about me doing the community bridge, so I can maybe get some support in doing that and be able to keep that going when things get really bad. You know, there's an elderly man who approached me saying he don't have no refrigerator, and he uses that fridge in the store for his food because he don't have one in his house and he's disabled, and if I can help him try to get a fridge. Are those people doing those things? I'm helping people respond to the violence of their policies. They're not doing these things. I'm the one taking risks and putting myself out there to do what I think is right and speaking up for people who continuously don't have a voice. And, you know, it's just really sad. You know, one of the people don't even live here anymore. So I don't know why he's so invested in Durham politics and dumping tens of thousands of dollars in Durham politics, because he thinks a certain person is the right person for Durham. But you don't live here. So why are you so concerned about what's going on in our city? Unless because you all have financial interest in getting certain people elected. And it's sickening. So they can get mad and upset about that post, but they need to look in the mirror and reevaluate how it is they are approaching the have-nots in this city.
Well, I'm going to stop the recording here on my end.
Recording stopped.
Thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for the work that you're doing with the fridge, too.
I appreciate that.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.